Hi, everyone. Dr. Westman here. And um, again, today I'm going to introduce some topics or some ideas about cholesterol. And, it's going to be probably a regular feature to have a live and updates on cholesterol because it is on everyone's mind pretty much. And I know I dealt with it in the masterclass, but anyway, I'll bring up some issues. And there was a really interesting paper that I'm going to try to explain to you today. Um, Also, after kind of a brief, half hour going over an article, we have two success stories, testimonials, a feature that I'd like to include more and more. I mean, as you get less shy about posting or having your results, and even this could be a place where we could troubleshoot perhaps. So, introducing the idea of cholesterol, the main thing I need to, like in the master class, this requires a paradigm shift, meaning a change in way of thinking. And I know we've all been taught that cholesterol is bad and that L is lousy, or even I was taught that L was lethal for LDL cholesterol, and H is the healthy. And the problem is it's not that simple. And even as I want to explain, if it does matter, even the cholesterol, as this paper shows, it's nowhere near as important as the other things that we're going to talk about. So LDL, if it is an issue, is one of the last things you want to deal with, actually. So this will be interesting. Now, the paper just came out, and so it's not been discussed in the medical field much. Of course, it got no media recognition, which is, kind of interesting. But I think that one of the reasons for that is that it's it's written in a manner that it doesn't have headlines like LDL doesn't matter, which is really what the paper says. And because who wants to hear that? But the big picture, the old way to look at cholesterol was the total and LDL cholesterol, and I was taught that's how you do it. But actually, as you look at cholesterol further, there's the large LDL and the small LDL. There's a large HDL and a small HDL. And there are triglycerides, different sizes, different particles of the LDL, particle numbers, and you can get advanced testing to actually show this in your own blood. But as I've gone on, remember I was introduced to this about 22 years ago, and 23, 1998. Yes, I had all the concerns and all that a lot of doctors have today when they look at it for the first time. But so I've lived through this and have examined, yes, you can go from the total LDL, triglyceride, HDL, the 4 blood tests to the 20 blood tests, the lipid subfractions it's called. And then you can go to other inflammatory markers. You can even go to measure the arteries now to see if you have the disease that the cholesterol is trying to predict and trying to prevent. So a lot has changed over the last 20 years. In the masterclass, we talk about metabolic syndrome being the new target, the new cause of atherosclerosis. Metabolic syndrome is comprised of not total cholesterol and LDL, it's triglyceride and HDL. So it goes from looking at 2 of the 4 factors in that 4 blood test lipid to the other 2, looking at triglyceride and HDL. But metabolic syndrome also includes the abdominal circumference, the elevated blood pressure, and elevated blood glucose. So even if you're not diagnosed with high blood pressure or diabetes, so pre-diabetes or pre-hypertension count in the metabolic syndrome. And in the masterclass, I went into excruciating detail about what metabolic syndrome is and how you should worry about the LDL cholesterol. And yet we still, I'll see comments and you'll have comments, and then you'll hear this, and you'll get a blood test back. You'll talk to your doctor, and then you'll have more comments, and because your doctor said he or she was worried about it. And remember, a lot of doctors that you're going to meet today have not been in the whole keto world for 22 years. That they've not heard the same kinds of things, their tropes, the same sort of, well, you're going to die of eating all that fat. Well, it hasn't happened yet for my patients, or really for anyone eating a low-carb keto diet, because it was never true, but everyone has that belief. So it's really kind of a prejudice or a prejudging against a way of eating. And many of you have already shared your experiences, how doctors have prejudged the obesity or other health issue. And that's, of course, it's just terrible. It's like the last place where a doctor can still kind of discriminate or be prejudiced and kind of get away with it, not acknowledging that obesity is a disease and that everyone has their own story and that it's worthy of treatment. So I want to share just a little bit. I went into clinical research training and wrote my own clinical research studies. So I was trained as what's called a investigator-initiated researcher. So some researchers take studies that drug companies or other people write, and then they implement those studies, and they can call themselves researchers because they're doing the study, implementing someone else's study. But I got trained to write my own studies, which means you have to understand how to not just read a paper, but how to write a grant, how to assess for a certain number of people in the study. For example, if you're trying to figure out a question, to answer the question and pose the question carefully in a way that makes sense and is even cognizant of how much money it would cost to do a study. So that's my background, and that I have to say is pretty unique in the keto world. The other investigators who've done the work like me, Steve Finney, Sarah Hallberg, who knows probably 15 years my junior, but they've done the Verta Health study. They wrote it, they implemented it. Jeff Volek, of course, at Ohio State. He started at UConn 20 years ago, now at Ohio State. But Jeff's not a clinical researcher or MD. He's a PhD in exercise physiology and nutrition, and doesn't do studies in people with serious illness, for example. So we all have our strengths in designing the research, and I think that gives me a particular, how should I say, ability or acumen to read literature that other people have written, and also to critique them. So when you are going to listen to different doctors, and you want people who are able to read literature, or you want doctors who follow guidelines, that's a system wants that, so you have to know what the background of your source of information is. And I'm pleased to be able to have given the master class and to coach you and to help you understand these things. And cholesterol is one of the big ones, because actually, I have to tell you, it's a good thing we have cholesterol in our body, because without it, we would not be alive. So, I often wonder, one day I woke up, if LDL is so bad, why is it in there, right? Why did God create, or, the evolution, however you want to think of it, create LDL to cause heart disease? No, in fact, LDL cholesterol is there to carry around fat-soluble things like vitamins, fat-soluble vitamins, in a water-soluble aqueous blood environment. So blood is water-soluble. The fats and fat-soluble vitamins and cholesterol are fat-soluble. They wouldn't do well being carried around just by themselves without like a little boat or a little sphere that's carrying around like a truck all of the fat-soluble things inside the aqueous bloodstream. So I guess each time I think I'll give a little, a few minutes about why LDL is there to remind you. and why cholesterol is there. We have cholesterol in every one of our cells. The cell walls are made of cholesterol. And years ago, I smelled a rat when it came to thinking cholesterol was bad, meaning something didn't jive, and because your livers make twice the cholesterol that you eat. Doesn't matter how much you eat cholesterol, your liver is going to make more. And I thought to myself, if cholesterol is that bad, why is my liver making twice as much? It's because you need it. So, I will repeat this, and you'll go to your doctors. The doctors will say, no, here, do this, do that. And each time I'll try to respond, and I'll give these kind of chalk talks about that. And I do think there is a role for statin medications. I'm not a statin basher like some of the keto folks out there who I think are trying to get attention to be more radical. I think there is a role for that, and it's individualized. Yes, they're overused, but I'll do another video like this on the role of medication to treat cholesterol. Right now, rest assured, with a keto lifestyle, you're using lifestyle to treat the cholesterol. So it's not like you're not doing anything. In fact, it's in guidelines for medical doctors on how you treat cholesterol. The first thing you do is change the lifestyle. Most doctors, with sort of a kind of fatalistic, my patients never change, they'll skip the lifestyle thing and go directly to medication. But it's not the only way to approach things. And that's been my kind of diplomatic way of approaching other organizations, other doctors, to just say, well, that's one way to do it. Here's another way. Not unless you want to be inflammatory to other doctors and, family members. No, I don't know. My style is to just acknowledge, well, that's interesting. There's another way to go about it. So now to the critical review of a paper, which if you try to, just think about trying to predict heart disease. How can we figure out if a factor is going to cause heart disease? If you have someone who already has heart disease, and then you try to figure out what factors caused it after someone has heart disease, it's difficult. One of the reasons is that often people are put on medications after they have heart attacks or have heart problems. And so you can never tease out whether the medications are part of it or helping it or reducing the risk. So one of the best kinds of studies is to prevent the first heart attack. So you take people who haven't had a heart attack yet. So you don't know if they have underlying heart disease or not. We're not talking about coronary scores. We're not talking about blood cholesterols. We're talking about heart attacks, documented outcomes. You can't fake those. I mean, there are issues in the measurement of all this, but the other important thing about this paper, so it was using medication to try to prevent that first heart attack. In fact, they used aspirin in the clinical trial, and it didn't work. So the clinical trial actually is trying to prevent that first heart attack. And the beauty of that in terms of trying to find causality is you don't have a whole lot of confounding factors. So it's like you're getting a pure view as to these risk factors. They measured things like age, blood pressure, smoking status, cholesterol levels, diabetes levels, if you had diabetes, things like that. And they followed these women. It actually is this is a paper in a journal called JAMA Cardiology. And the first author is Dugani, Dugani. I'll put it in the notes if you want to track it down. But it's just published here in 2021, Dugani et al., JAMA Cardiology. The title is Association of Lipid, Inflammatory, and Metabolic Biomarkers with Age at Onset for Incident Coronary Heart Disease in Women. So incident coronary heart disease means the first sign of a heart attack. So that means you're going to be getting a pure view without contamination or co-intervention, or, it depends on the language that you learned. So it gives you a pretty nice look at these individual factors to see if they caused related to and associated with. It doesn't necessarily mean causation, but it gives you a good idea. It's better than a retrospective article or a cohort analysis observational. It was a randomized trial that also means that they were taking care of the data in a sophisticated manner. So that's another just kind of behind the scenes. Some studies are really well funded to be able to follow people really well, collect the measures twice even. Some other studies are not well funded or well designed to double measure things, and they might just ask people what they eat once and then 5 years later ask if they're healthy, which it just isn't very solid science. So what they did is they took 28,000 women. So this is, if you're trying to think of, can I find significant factors? Well, you probably, with a couple thousand people, you have a good reasonable idea of getting statistical significance. This is 28,000 women, and they were followed actually over a 7 or so year period. So from 1993 to the year 2020. So somewhere between 5 to 7 years, somewhere in there. And people started having heart attacks. And so, yeah, I know it seems kind of, why would people do these sorts of studies? Well, these are the ones that doctors value the most. It's not just predicting whether you have a cholesterol level. It's actually an outcome that, you're trying to prevent. That's a heart attack. You see, we don't know how to prevent heart attacks in everyone, despite what the doctors may tell you. We try to do what we can. So think to yourself, what do you think? What are the most important things that your doctor talks about in terms of preventing heart disease? Just think for that for a minute. And depending on your doctor, whether they're a family doctor or an internist, I would hope they would talk about smoking, right? That's a big factor. Been known for a long time that smokers are at higher risk of having a heart attack. So we would think that would come out in a paper like this. Your doctor may have talked about blood pressure, right? And yes, blood pressure has been known to, elevated blood pressure that's not treated, lead to things like heart disease, strokes, things like that. Other things like weight. Did your doctor talk to you about the weight and give you help in lowering the weight, or BMI as it's measured in this paper? Or did they just talk about LDL cholesterol? I mean, I'm kind of dramatizing this a little bit because my view from what my patients tell me about other doctors is that they'll ignore all these other things and want to get them on a drug for the treatment of LDL cholesterol. So if that's that important in a study like this, they measured all these different things. Let's find out what factors were predictive of that first heart attack in women, and see what is the most important thing. So what I'm going to do is share my screen and pull up the paper here, actually. So this is the paper itself. Yeah, I'm just waiting to see on my other computer if the screen is working. It is good. So we'll wait a moment for that. So I really like the way they presented the information here, because this is a very number-heavy sort of topic, and they presented it here in a paper with a figure. Now, you can see here with figure 1 on the left, and yeah, you don't really have to be able to read everything. I'm trying to make it a little bigger now. Yeah, there we go. figure 1 on the left, the associations of clinical risk factors and lipid biomarkers. The line down the middle, the dotted line, is the line of identity, meaning that there's no difference for that factor. So at the very top, it says BMI categories. If it was on the left-hand side of the line, it favors protection as the BMI goes higher. And on the right side of the line, if it favors risk, that means there's a risk associated with it if it's on the right side of the line. And now at the very bottom, you can actually see the number. Let's see. There we go. I apologize for the lag time and delay here. I'm just trying to get this so you can see it real well. So the lines, and there are these dots with little lines to each side of them. They are the ones that are farthest away from that center line are the most powerful ones. So if you just scan the figure here on the left called figure 1, the most important factor, scan the one that goes way out to the right, it's almost 10 times as strong if you look at the number way at the bottom, is diabetes. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth one from the top. Yes, diabetes is the most powerful factor that predicts having a heart attack. You don't want to have diabetes. I don't care your cholesterol. Well, let's not go there yet. You don't want to have diabetes. Did I give that impression in the masterclass? I really hope so. And it shows in this paper that it has 10 times the risk of having a heart attack, first heart attack in women, if you have diabetes. Now, those other factors that are almost as powerful as diabetes include metabolic syndrome, these little, the dot with the lines, hypertension, which is part of metabolic syndrome, smoking, obesity, over, BMI and obese. These are all, in the 3 to 5 times range. That's the hazard ratio down at the bottom. And, you're gonna have to squint your eyes now to the bottom, squint them even more. When you look at LDL cholesterol, it's hardly even different than that line of identity down the middle. LDL cholesterol, you can see those 4 little boxes, and they hardly even are different than 1, which means there's no risk. So, just HDL, which is a notch below the LDL, is pretty big risk, or preventive, favors protection, and that's part of metabolic syndrome. So if you're going to just, nobody, what I really like about this is they didn't, have any preconceived notion, no prejudice, no forward thinking about what they should expect to see. And here are the numbers. And so as a doctor in the office, and, I just have to say, I saw my first paper about fat and the food 15 years ago, and then really kind of at a major meeting 10 years ago. So this will probably take 10 years to percolate out into your doctor's guidelines and clinical knowledge. Diabetes is the most important thing in predicting heart disease. You don't want diabetes. Metabolic syndrome is then next. Smoking is almost as important as metabolic syndrome. Being overweight and obese, these are all more important than a cholesterol level of an LDL or total. HDL is really important because that's part of the metabolic syndrome, as we talked about. And now what is just really interesting is there's another type of analysis, which I don't expect you to understand too much, but it's kind of let's account for these things that we think are most important, and then let's add in things to see if they matter even more. And I think I can probably explain that to greater detail. Let's see, I'm going to stop the screen sharing here and wait just a moment till it comes back. So they did another type of analysis that they put in the appendix. So I can't show you here in this paper, but they said, okay, if you have smoking and diabetes and these other factors, what if we add LDL cholesterol to those things? Does it give any extra information? And it was no, it didn't at all. So I've sent this paper to my lipid colleagues, my cardiology colleagues at Duke, to have them take a look at it and give me some comments about it. Because actually, this is a paper that shows the value of treating BMI, which is part of the Obesity Medicine Association that I'm past president of. And treating BMI is more important than treating cholesterol in this predictive type of paper. Now, you could argue, well, you didn't really show that in a clinical trial going forward, but come on. This is solid, pretty solid evidence in a trial that was collected prospectively. So remember, it's the things we've known about for a long time: the smoking, the blood pressure, the extra weight on the body, the metabolic syndrome, diabetes. It's not the LDL cholesterol. And I know it's what we've been taught. I know doctors are focusing on it. And I know you're going to ask me about it again in the academy, and that's okay. But I wanted to show this because it just came out, which means you're, to probably be in guidelines 10 years from now. And yes, there need to be other replications of it, but it puts in one paper what we've suspected for a long time. That, in fact, Dr. Atkins asked me to put in the first paper I did, the triglyceride to HDL ratio. And I didn't know what the triglyceride to HDL ratio was, but if you look back in the papers that I did with Dr. Atkins funding and then the foundation funding, in there in the paper will be triglyceride to HDL ratio, because he knew or suspected that was correlated with insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome, and thought that was more important than other things, and way beyond, or way before it became something worthy of attention by the medical researchers. And that's Jeff Volek. Before Jeff Volek, it was Jerry Reven at Stanford, but he wasn't very vocal about what he had found, that triglyceride was the worst thing, not that the glucose and triglyceride were worse than LDL. And that's basically what this paper is saying. You want the glucose level to be controlled, the insulin level to be controlled. You don't want to have diabetes. Diabetes is the main major risk factor for heart disease, and this is in women, which usually means it's even more powerful in men, although it doesn't show that yet. I've asked my investigators at Duke who have these kind of data to if I could do these sorts of analyses using the clinical trial data that they have. So this is one of the first papers that has compared the relative contribution of glucose and diabetes or LDL cholesterol. What's more powerful as a predictor and as a risk factor? And hands down, it's the diabetes, the glucose metabolism, the triglyceride, the HDL, and that was pretty exciting to see. We've talked about this a lot. And I've always been sort of on eggshells, and that I want to wait. I need a study like this that compares both at the same time, and there it is. Again, it's Dagani, Dagani, JAMA Cardiology, and the most prominent cardiologist that I see on the paper is Paul Ridker, who is very interested in reducing inflammation. He really, there's a lot of inflammation information in the paper. So that's the little chalk talk about cholesterol and the really important paper that just came out. I hope I was able to clarify that for you. And I'll try to somehow at least get the name and the article into the Facebook group. Sometimes I can sneak a PDF in there, and if you don't sell it to anybody, I think we'll be fine. So I'm going to hold off on let's see, the Dagani JAMA Cardiology, just 2021, and so other than smoking, tobacco, and obesity, what are the main causes of heart disease? Well, it's in blood pressure, and then metabolic syndrome, which is high triglyceride, low HDL, and smoking and obesity. So don't forget blood pressure. That's kind of emblazoned into all family medicine, internal medicine's doctors' minds. I mean, that's part of the vital sign, right? Getting your blood pressure checked. So anyway, I hope that's interesting. If it's too geeky for you, I hope we can explain. Maybe we were brainstorming today about upcoming ideas for the membership. One of them was to have sort of a paper research topic that Amy or I will address and write and have readable. So we might be asking for topics or bringing up topics like this that are just kind of recurring issues that so many people have. Great. So, Diane, are you ready to go? Excellent. So I can see a thumbs up. Great. So now switching to testimonials and by the way, I hope you're enjoying the membership, and we're brainstorming, getting new ideas. We want feedback. We may be setting out a poll and trying to figure out, or you can just spontaneously ask for things. I hope you enjoyed the Chef Scott Parker teaching me how to do tacos. The most important thing I still remember is I always was taught to fry the hamburger and then drain the fat, mop it up and throw it. And he was just like, nope, you caramelize the mince, the ground beef, and with the fat, which was pretty cool. Although the fine print, I had to go back. He used a pretty lean type of ground beef. I don't suppose you'd want, really to have way too much fat in there, but it was really tasty. And actually, I noshed on that for the next few days, put it back in the microwave, but then I have to confess that he went so fast, I didn't include all the ingredients that he had because I'm not quite so fast at chopping up things as he was. So, but if you want to cook with the chef, I planted the seed in Lisa's ear that maybe we should have the members be able to cook with Chef Scott, so you can ask questions, and we'll see if we can. Anyway, I want to come up. Glenn and Lisa want to come up with things that are fun, that are interesting, and add to your journey as you go along. So, Diane, I'm going to bring you in here in just a moment.
Okay.
Excellent, and I'm going to take myself out. Please introduce yourself briefly. Where you're from, where you are, and then tell us your story.
Sure. All right. It's so great to be here. My name is Diane Cummins, and I live in Ohio with my husband, and my kids are here, and my cat. I began this journey in 2016, August 1st, 10 days before my birthday. At age 55, I woke up one day and decided, you know what? This is stupid. I have type 2 diabetes, and I'm not taking care of myself. This is stupid. And I have things I still want to do in my life. They're people I need to love for much longer. So, having heard about low carb before, I kind of dabbled in an internet search on Facebook, and I ended up getting into keto, and I ended up joining this group in this Facebook group. And this Facebook group was wonderful. They weren't all about the fat, which delighted my soul because I had joined some other ones that were like, well, we're, chugging heavy whipping cream. And I just thought, well, I don't want to do that. That doesn't make any sense. And this group was very Westman-like. So I started my journey in 2016. And to be honest with you, I didn't weigh myself very much. I didn't want to go there. I just wanted to give this a go and let it happen. And it did. It did. And it took about a year and a half. I started my journey. My highest weight was nearly 300 pounds. I look back at it now and I get teary because that's not healthy. It's not healthy at all. And I'm important and you're important and we need to take care of ourselves. And it took me a while to get there. And like I said, it took me a year and a half and I got to my goal weight. And I'm thrilled. But beyond all that, see, somewhere in the journey, it flipped from weight loss to being health gain. You see, there's a huge difference. weight loss is great. Health gain is better. In the meantime, my type 2 diabetes, it's gone. My mental fog, my irritability is gone. I feel like a whole new person. I'm happier. My body cooperates with me. I can bend down and put on my socks without feeling like I'm being choked to death. People, that's a thing. And I don't have that anymore. And it's wonderful. And it's freeing. But this is very interesting that Dr. Westman would be talking about cholesterol. I have high arthritic plaques in my heart. I do. And the thing that is going to help to cease that progression is going to be keeping my diabetes gone. That's important. So to be honest with you, I have never eaten off plain. Not once. I just can't. And it's not that I'm superhuman, because believe me, people, the first 6 months doing keto was one of the hardest things I've ever done. It was emotional. There were times I was angry. There were times I was sad. But like I've said before, you build each meal, you build each day, one on top of each other, and you just keep going. You just keep going. And y'all, this isn't a religion. There's no reason to have any guilt for anything ever. Let it go. If you fall off, let it go. Honey, I'll scoot over. There's a place on this wagon for you all the time. And you are loved and you're important. So let's just move along, okay? So I've never eaten off plan. However, I got to my goal weight, feeling pretty cute, and went a little nuts for the keto treats. Yeah, I did. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a sugar addict, and I will be a sugar addict for the rest of my life. And I have to surrender to that. Keto treats are not for me. They're not for me. And I don't know about you, but in the grocery stores I shop in, it's everywhere. And Amy Burger once said, if it says keto on the front, it's a lie in the back. And I'm telling you, it's a lie. Today, at work, I looked at a Quest bar that I would happily have eaten before. 17 grams of carb. And some of it's fibers that are trickery. And it's not food. It's not health. But anyway, I went there thinking, I'd been really disciplined. It was time to, get my fun on. And I ended up gaining a little bit of weight. And I was having a hard time getting my brain back into, prescription strength keto, which is what I need. So when I got the email concerning the Adapt Academy Keto Masterclass, I thought, I know this stuff. Honestly, I do. But I needed to be reintroduced. I feel like the prodigal ketoer. I got all the good gifts, and then I left. And then I realized the good stuff is back home. So Adapt Academy and that keto group, I'm coming home. I'm coming home. And it's wonderful. I love being there with all of you. I have done 1 month plus with no keto treats. Has it been easy? No, but it's worth it. And I'm so thrilled and I'm so happy to be a part of this. And like I said before, I love that I get to take this journey with you because you renew me. You renew me with your enthusiasm. You renew me with your support. And it's a big deal. And I love you all. I honestly do. So we need to just keep ketoing on, ketoing strong, take it one meal, one day, one moment at a time. And you know what? When I began keto, one thing I did was I'd get a craving. And you know what? In your lizard brain just wants to make you go, oh, cool. No. Give that craving 10 minutes and talk to yourself. Say, this isn't for you. This isn't what you eat. And you will find that as you continue to do that, the need for that drops off. It just does. Now, keto treats, another story. Stay away. Just stay away. Okay? Love to all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it's an adventure.
Yes, it is.
It's so good we can help each other out in a group like this. It's so
Important.
So thanks. I'm going to be now. Esther, are you ready to go? Thank you for the thumbs up. And hello, welcome. And please introduce yourself. And I'm going away.
Hi, I'm Esther Jacobson, and I'm in Omaha, Nebraska, with my husband. And just as a little background, I've been a yo-yo dieter since my teen years, and have a family history of diabetes and heart disease. And personally, I have high blood pressure and an underactive thyroid, PCOS, and metabolic syndrome since I was a kid. And there's been in my past 3 or 4 times that I got down to what I consider an acceptable weight. And it was done through low fat dieting, Weight Watchers, all those lovely things, and exercise. And it just was not sustainable. So I'd always gain the weight plus. Everybody gains weight plus on down. And eventually, one part in there, I was very close to 300. And then I learned about keto back in 2018 and have been dabbling in it off and on, doing all the different nouveau ketos with the MCT and all the bars and treats and everything like that. I was in the first master class back in November. And since the November class, I'm down 22 pounds, which I'm ecstatic about. And there have been some real big changes mentally that I've had. And I was wondering, why is this time different? Because it is different from all the other times that I've lost weight. My weight loss has slowed down since November to like maybe a half a pound or a pound a week. And the mental games are starting. Get that nasty little guy on my shoulder saying, oh, this isn't working. Just ditch it. Go ahead, have something. Go make yourself a peanut butter sandwich or dine into ice cream. And the other day, this past week, I stepped on a scale, didn't see anything, but scale doesn't bother me that much. But as I was getting my clothes on, the little guy came back on saying, oh, this is failure again. You're not going to be able to sustain it. You're not going to be able to do this. It's not working. And I look over at my closet door where I have my waist away challenge and see the stair step. It literally goes down and down like a stair step. And I'm pulling on a pair of jeans that are still buckled and have the zipper done. I'm pulling them on like a regular pull-on pants, and they're a size smaller than I ever wore. And I'm going like, well, duh, this is just so stupid. And so learning to fight those mental little battles and talk back to myself and encourage myself. But this time in doing any weight loss type thing, it's successful and I'm doing really well. And I got to thinking, why is that? And I think number one, it's the simplicity of the plan. It's not easy, but it is a very simple plan. So it's easy to keep in mind for all the various situations that you get into. The next is the timely posts and blogs and videos and YouTube chats with Glenn Finkel and from Dr. Westman and Amy. It's like they are living in my house and are hitting the subjects exactly at the time that I need to hear the encouragement, and the special speakers like Jackie Everstein and Violet. I mean, so much information, and it deals, I love the geeky stuff. So I love the science behind it and learning why it works, and as well as just the practical application. The weekly challenges from Lisa have helped me so much. Like that weight loss or that waist to weight challenge, where that's a daily thing because it's right there on my closet door, and I can see it, and that encourages me every day to prove that things are improving inside of me. When the weight doesn't come off on the scale, I can look at that and say, no, there is a change. Something is happening here. And then her Monday mini goals, those are, make a little change or tweak something here and there. And I'm finding out that they're becoming habits. They are so good and I'm so effective. They're starting to become habits in me. And the other part that I think is so essential is our Facebook group. To me, that is the key to everything. The foodies out there, you inspire me with the recipes and everything that come out. I don't get bored because I tend to make the same thing over and over again. So I appreciate all you foodies out there sharing your pictures and your recipes and everything. There's a couple of you that are major influencers in my journey. One of them is Jennifer Shears Butler. I am still working on that post that you put out there about honoring the struggle and how I'm not need to fight or be afraid of when struggles come. Just learn from them, bring them in, take them in, and just learn what's trying to be taught here. Obviously, there's something wrong in my life or something that is needing to be addressed. So learn. And then Melanie Hindi, you get me out there moving and just challenging me to get out there and exercise and just, exercise mainly is walking for me. But just get moving and do something. All of the non-scale victories that are shown on the posts, the people opening up for their struggles and the community that we have of acceptance and camaraderie, not judging each other, that is just so, so important. The icing on the cake is my family has joined me, my sister, my sister-in-law, my brother, and then I have strong support from my husband. So they keep me accountable. We encourage each other daily, and because they were in the second master class, so it's the rippling effect, and who knows what all's going to happen with all of us. To me, the Keto Masterclass was amazing in learning the hows and the whys and getting the tools for success. But the continued support from the Facebook group is where the true application is coming in for me, the day-to-day, moment by moment, and it's where the rubber meets the road in continuing my journey to health. I recently listened to a blog by Violet Rivera, where she said, the goal is not to be a number or a scale type thing, and not the number. The goal should be health, because your body, if you're doing things the wrong way, you don't have a healthy body. If you hit a low number or you hit the goal weight of like I did in the past, but my body is not healthy, my body is fighting me all the time for that weight. And I can't be a normal weight for my body until my body is healthy. So my journey is health, and I'm going to be here for the long haul because I got a way to go. So I want to thank you and so appreciate everybody out there and the posts and the team. Oh my gosh, it's marvelous. It's just what I needed in this time in my life. So thank you.
Thanks, Esther. And I thought, Diane, can I bring you back up? Great. So we'll conclude with sort of a Brady Bunch. I could see Diane, clapping behind the scenes.
I love everything she said. Everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And, we have great plans for you still. So You said nouveau keto, which is kind of funny. There's another saying that people might resonate with them more. It's called internet keto.
Yes.
So more and more people are coming to me as a new patient, and they're like Amy says, if it says keto on it, forget it. Don't do it. Or it says keto on the front and it's a lie on the back. If you said that.
Very much so, yes.
Yeah. Those things, for the most part, derail people. But we've also found that there are some people who don't need to lower their carbs, metabolically, but they do it. And so you need to be careful of following people who don't really need to be doing keto. They might be doing things that you can't get away with, But thanks so much. I don't know if you're able to see the feed of comments on the side, but you're rocking it in terms of great inspirational thoughts. And we want to make this journey just as smooth and as a community just as much as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any last thoughts to say to each other? Because you get a chance to actually see each other and talk.
We're best friends now. You don't know this, but we're best friends. I can relate to you so much. It's great.
Oh, it's great. It's great. And I love seeing your journey out there. Your picture blew me away. Oh my God. I'm going like, that's going to be me in a couple years.
Fantastic. So until the next time, thanks again. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and check out adaptyourlifeacademy.com.